Hello, is this thing on? Hello? Hello, Ron. Welcome into the Eric St. Show podcast. A daily show where I discuss news, nonsense, and my personal adventures from right here in the Impact Power Sports studio. Thank you so much for being here. Right away, Nick says, another snub from Q100. It was Cover Wednesday on Q100. I wasn't even convinced that Nick was listening. He requests, what was it? It was Type O Negative. And God, what the fuck was that song that you made me play? By Type O Negative. Summer Breeze, which was Seals and Crofts way back. Well, that sucked. It was so bad. I can't tell you how bad it was. I mean, that's such a slow song to begin with. Type O Negative slowed it down to like a third of that. How is it that you like such awful music? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what the deal is. Okay. For a second there, I didn't think I was able to see my chat. But I now can. I think I can. I don't know if I can see every single one of them. Nick had chatted, but there's an issue with the chat. I can see it. I see Kenny had extra spookies for Stevie. Tyler complaining about Twitch notifications. Chris. Bob says, kill, switch, engage, Holy Diver. Now, I want you to know that I did, in fact, listen to it, and I like it, but I just forgot. I tried my best, and I was close because I actually listened to it today, but I dropped the ball. Part of it happens because on the day of the broadcast, I need contact with you. Like Nick, he made contact with me, but the problem was the song was shit. Some people who have called me before, like some of the regulars north of the Hard Living line, I trust them, and I will literally play it sight unseen, like I haven't previewed it. And I'll play it. But for you losers who have shit music taste, I'm not going to do that. And thank God I previewed the Type O Negative song. And then I think Nick requested something else. What the fuck was it else? And somebody had requested like White Zombie, Children of the Grave. Absolutely outstanding. So interesting. I loved that. I said, upon further review, Nick, I just checked it out. That song sucks ass. It took me 2 seconds to realize how shitty it is. Then I sent him laughy emoji and middle finger, black hand middle finger emoji. He wrote, LOL, yeah, they stretch it out over a minute longer than the original. Then why did you request it? How about Cheap Sunglasses by The Sword? I wrote, I'll check. All of your garbage songs need review. And then I realized, why am I spending so much time with fucking Nick? I never did it. Sorry. I'm not sorry, not sorry. Isn't that what people say? He writes, you would have hated my original idea of Crowbar's awesome 8-minute rendition of Dreamweaver. Oh, God. It's fucking horrible. Bob says, I sent an email through the station. Did you get it? No. You got to call. You got to call. Look, this is how This is how the arrangement works on Q100. You call, and I write it on this with a pen. I write the suggestions down. It's very simple. So I want to fucking talk to you, idiot. Yeah, I played a lot of great music today. Matt Kuipers, Kevin's brother, he says, I got a great cover. I go, okay, what is it? Yeah, Metallica doing Bread Fan. And I'm like, dude, you know the rules about Cover Wednesday. At the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is that the song has to be a known song. For example, White Zombie doing Children of the Grave. Everybody knows it's a Black Sabbath song. That's interesting. If it was the Spin Doctors doing Children of the Grave, that's interesting. As long as it's a known song. And you can have well-known band doing known song. That gets green check mark. Or unknown band doing known song. That gets a green check mark. You know what gets red check mark? Shit song no one's heard of, done by anyone. Nick says, get me a radio job. I want to resurrect Out of Control Saturday Night that KOQ used to do. I'm not familiar with that. We'll get there. Otherwise, it was really good. Nick says you played that atrocious version of Gordon Lightfoot's Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. That was requested, by the way. And I love that song. And it's an excellent version. And anything by Kingston, Ontario punk band Headstones is worth playing, in my opinion. Bob says, I was busy at work. I'll try again next week unless you want to write yourself a note. Are you telling me you can't spend 25 seconds, hit a phone number, and then I pick it up? Hey, yeah, don't forget. Kill Switch Engage. Holy Diver. I might remember, but the easiest way to guarantee I will remember is by calling on the phone. Linda says, did Linda request the Edmund Fitzgerald song? She loves it. She says, God, I hate that song. Well, I don't know. Maybe you've never heard the version done by the Headstones, but it's entirely rearranged. It's twice as fast. Really cool. You got to check it out. Look up Headstones, Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. In fact, I like it better than the original. So there you go. Nick does not like it, but of course you don't like it. You are lumped in with Kenny with the worst musical taste in the history of the audience. While the insane asylum was going on today, I was busy picking apart more material for a Big Fraud Wednesday tonight, starting at 6 p.m. with Who Are These Free Beers? Now, I am hyper-focusing on one 5-minute event that happened this week on the world-famous Free Beer and Hot Wings show. It centers around Greg telling a bullshit story about something that happened over the weekend. And you are going, when you hear it, the way I'm isolating various parts and telescoping in on Greg's story without the distractions, you will get a great idea of how much of a pile of bullshit this story is. And we'll have discussion about it and elaborate as to why I think he is absolutely making this story up. Not to mention, it doesn't line up with who he is. He would never dream of really doing this to someone. That's not the way Greg operates. Chris says he should have started that story with Dear Penthouse. It sounded to me like this was a fantasy that Greg had at one point that he worked into a story in which he plays a prank on his pal Doug Westerman, who was a radio program director at a college station in Minnesota. Freebeer told the story about how, through some weird circumstance, where a couple of young 23-year-old women approached him and told him that they wanted to have sex with him, and they wanted to go up to his room, and they wanted to have sex with him. That's what Greg actually said on the radio, and he expects you to believe it. He then said, okay, come to my room. And he gave him a room number, and it was his pal Doug's. And then he's like, oh, no, I played it. And then he's like, okay, the next day, Doug says, hey, you won't believe what happened to me, guys. And so he was in the car, our pal Doug Westerman, with Chad Brown, who is Greg's broadcast sidekick, who also makes $200 a game. They're driving away in Austin, Texas. And Doug says, these two women came to my door and wanted to fuck me. I wonder how that happened. Oh! And Greg just sat there snickering and was silent, and he did not tell Doug what had happened. He just kept it to himself. And then he tells the story for the first time on the radio Monday. I went ahead and reached out to both Doug Westerman and Chad Brown, who were in the car with Freebeer. Obviously, Doug was in the car. He was the one telling the story the next morning about the hot chicks that came to the door and wanted to have sex with him because Greg sent them up. So I tweeted out to Doug Westerman and to Chad Brown, hey, fellas, Greg told a story about how he sent two chicks up to Doug Westerman's room late at night. I call BS. Can you confirm or deny? Now, Westerman knows who I am. He'll probably sniff it out that it's me trying to stir up trouble like I love to do. But Chad Brown probably doesn't know who the fuck I am. I doubt Greg's ever talked about me. So I'm hoping I get a response from those fucking idiots. I don't know why they're fucking idiots. I take that back. Chad Brown and Doug Westerman are not fucking idiots. I even went so far as to look up Doug Westerman's wife on Facebook. And, you know, I went under my real name because I cannot reach out to her through my Facebook page, my fan page. So I went to my personal page and I saw Mrs. Westerman. And, like, she looks to be a nice lady, obviously. I mean, why wouldn't she be? And I started typing the message. Did your husband, okay, she would love to hear a story about how Greg sent up horny hot chicks up to her husband's room. I did not do that, though. I backed off. I said, I don't know. It's a little too much collateral damage. I'll keep that one in the chamber just in case. But there's no fucking way any of this happened. Now, I've chronicled the story here and kind of like glossing it over, but there's a lot of fine points and details. Wait till you see Greg's fidgety fucking body language and him looking around and pregnant pauses for effect and the smirks on this fucking story. And I can guarantee you, he didn't say to the people in the room, hey, this is going to be a fake story. He probably just told it, which is what he used to do with me. And I used to sniff him out every time that's a bullshit story. He's so bad at it, he doesn't think for a second that anybody will think that it's bullshit. He's bad at it, and he doesn't have the realization that he's bad at it. So he's terrible. what you will notice when I play this for you on the Patreon tonight at 6 p.m. is the lack of questions by anybody in the room. It's like with just a little bit of investigative work, they would have been able to blow the lid off that story, but they probably didn't want to, because they know full well what would happen. There was a couple moments when Steve interacted with him that had you scratching your head about the validity of this story. But I think the biggest reason why the story is invalid, Greg, who looks like a fucking balding alien, homeless and old, waiting outside of a hotel for ice cream to arrive, that two young hot chicks would approach him and say, "We want to go up to your room and have sex with you." What a fucking idiot. Unbelievable. Kyle says, who is the bigger Greg hack, Opie or Smugbeer? Greg's the biggest hack in radio. The luckiest thing that ever happened to Greg Daniels, Greg Neuenfeld, is me. If it weren't for me, he would not have a show. There's no way. I'm the one that got us in touch with Novak. I'm the one that started the show in that direction. I can't even say this shit with a straight face. It's embarrassing. I don't give a fuck. Kyle says he forgot to mention they were hookers. They were asking for money. No. Were there any Freeburn Hot Wings groupies back in the show's heyday? Boy, were they. Boy, were there. Yes, there were. And then some. It happened. I'm telling you. Rich says, did you just mention Freebeer's real last name? Oh, I do it all the time. Neuenfeld. Neuenfeldt. Gregory Richard Neuenfeld. I think it's Richard. Did you know that, I don't know if you know this, but like Henry, the prince in England, red hair guy, now lives in the U.S., his real name, Prince Harry, his real name is Henry. Did you know that? Harry is the nickname of Henry, which I didn't know. Why does this come up? Fucking Greg. You know what this idiot did? Him and his dumbass first wife named their first kid Harry Dick. Like, if you take the nicknames of their sons' real names, Henry Richard, that's Harry Dick. What kind of a scumbag, asshole parent would name his kid Harry Dick? You fucking moron. Ugh. Harry is nicknamed for Henry. Just like Prince Harry, his real name is Henry. Greg's kid doesn't go by Harry, but you can say his name's Harry Dick. God, I hope that one doesn't get out on the playground. That poor kid. It's already bad enough that Greg's on the air talking about fucking boning 390 times a year, that sick fuck. Jesus Christ. All right. And then after we get done with Who Are These Freebeers today, we will be getting after another edition of the Ben and Eric Patreon podcast. And part of that will be a review of Blood Moon 2. Now, I don't have it all done, but I've got enough to review, probably 10, 15 minutes on the Ben and Eric Patreon podcast. Like I said to you yesterday, there's not enough time to get through the whole film. I am not even 8 minutes into it, of this 45-minute movie, and I've got 10 clips ready to go. Jimmy is going to be on, and his cousin Paul, who is the writer and director of the film. The time and energy these two put in to make one of the worst/best movies that has ever been made is remarkable. And we will start to rejoice in this celebration on Patreon tonight. Patreon.com/Eric Zane. Patreon.com/Eric Zane. Did I say Zame? I think I did. Zane. You can sign up for 7 days free, by the way. Do that. 7 days free. You put in a payment form, and then you cancel it right after. And then you get the 7 days free. And if you still want it after that, you can sign up afterwards and just enable the card, and away you go. All right. So we are off and running on this edition of the Eric Zane Show podcast. You can reach out to me via email, eric@ericzaneshow.com. And that is on the Shoreliners Striping inbox, eric@ericzaneshow.com. This morning was a little bit interesting because I woke up and as I got going, later on the NFK wakes up. And you can always tell when he's in a shitty mood because of tone. When you say good morning, he says good morning back. And it's his inflection. Because if you say, how are you? And if he says, great, how are you? That's wonderful. But if he says, okay, like that, that means he's pissed off. And he doesn't even want you talking to him. Okay. So that happened. I go, how are you? Okay. And he's trudging through the goddamn kitchen when he says it, away from me into the living room. And there's where the hardwood or the laminate goes into the carpet, kitchen or dining room into living room. There's like a threshold where it divides carpet from laminate. He shuffles his fucking feet so much that he trips over that thing. Now that thing's a quarter of an inch raised from the floor. He trips over it. And he whips around and gives it the finger and says, fuck you, motherfucker. And I'm like, oh. So ridiculous. God. Oh. Tyler says, does he stomp harder when he's crabby? No, it's always consistently the same. He's always stomping his feet. And he always slams cupboards. The hinges all the time on these cupboards. You know how you got the top one and the bottom one? And they're the ones that they have the little screw in. They can slide off. He'll open the cupboard, get the salt out, and rather than shutting it, he just whack. He just hits it, and then it just slams shut. So everything's getting slammed, and it's impossible to not wake up after he wakes up. And he's downstairs. And I'll never forget, however many years ago it was, like the first morning, and like my eyes open up. I'm like, what is that? Is there a goddamn dinosaur downstairs? Holy shit. Kenny writes, he's probably wondering if there's any other hidden appointments being kept from him. Yeah, I forgot to tell him about the Monday appointment. And you're right. He needs to know that shit. Nick says you need to order some soft stops for your cabinets. I think he'll defeat them. Mason Blue says getting woken up from people in the house not picking up their heels is so fucking annoying. Yeah. And the thing is, I want to say to him, I want to give him a pep talk about how to walk. But that would break my own rule about, shit to bitch at him about. because there's so much to bitch about that if I worried about everything, I would just be spending my time bitching. Chris is right. He's not hurting anyone. 95% out of the time, I leave him alone. Because I don't want to be constantly just yelling at the guy. I gave up on various things like, leaving messes and fucking wiping your hands. Chris says just making sure someone salts the countertops and puts peanut butter on the handles. It's honest work, but someone has to do it. Yeah, I chalk it up to just part of the shit that I have to do every day. I have accepted that. It's like, shit you do every day. Brush your teeth, feed dogs, wipe feces off cabinets. Which leads me into perfect opportunity to tease for you that coming up, excuse me, on Monday, this is another long weekend for your old pal, Easy. But we fell into the idea that on Monday, I republish the granddaddy of all stories that has ever occurred on this show. Essentially 90% of what I do is storytelling. And not that bullshit lie shit that Freebeer does. Okay? Real shit. And the greatest story that I've ever been a part of is the Gary at the Men's Warehouse story. It could be known as many things, but if you have never heard this story, trust me, even if you hate my guts, set a reminder in your phone to download Monday's show, which will be titled as Not the Best of the Eric Zane Show podcast for November 4. Excuse me, I'm having a hard time. I gotta clear my throat. Hang on. Oh God, that hurt. I don't remember all the details of how I told it then. And I'm sure that if I started right now just telling it to you from the beginning, like now, it would be fine. But you got to go to where my brain was when it all happened. I was reluctant to tell the story because of how upsetting it was. Let me just say this in an effort to get you prepared for it. In these four walls of this house, it's quite possible that anyone would encounter feces smudges in various locations. It's happened many times. And the man does not get out often. But when he does, a lot of times, he brings his feces with him. For example, when we were in the old fraud bus, not the one I have now, he's not been in the new one, the old one, we let him sleep in the back bedroom. And after night one, I walked back there to get something out of the back bedroom, and there's a streak on the goddamn sheets of shit. All right? So what I'm telling you is if he's out of these four walls, there's a pretty decent chance that the shit's coming with him. Well, this story involves Gary from the Men's Warehouse. Falls into that description. I mean, all of those variables are in play. That will be in its truest form for you on Monday. I can't wait. I can't wait to listen to it. And I don't listen to my own show. Go Blue 0052 Jason says, why do you call him NFK? It's a great question. I'm going to tell you that right now. That stands for, hang on, I got to get a drink of water. I'll be right back. This is killing me. I apologize, but I'm having some throat issues. Stand by. I'm going to run a quick intermission. Damn it. Sorry. All right, I'm back. After the NFK moved in, there was a series of moments where we were like figuring each other out. And I was getting like a lot of emotion out of them for various moments in time. One in particular, when we went up north, and we were walking around the local nature center. Cub Scouts are there, Girl Scouts, church groups. And he had a sweatshirt, and he dropped the goddamn sweatshirt in the center of the room. He looked at it, gave it the finger, and called it a fucking N-word. Hard R. Out loud. And I'm like, oh, what? What just happened? All these heads turned. Mommy, he just called his sweatshirt a bleeping N-word. Oh, my God. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I go, and I pick it up. I go, come on, buddy. Let's get out of here. We got to go. Holy shit. So that NFK stands for No Filter Kevin. One of you probably came up with that. He has no filter. If it's in his brain, it's coming out. It's going to be horrible obscenities. Kenny says NFK going to get his ass beat in the middle of Walmart if he keeps that shit up. He rarely leaves the house. Very rarely. In 6 months, he's been outside one time. And that was Monday. Well, I take it back. Anytime we have to go to the doctor. That's it. Or the dentist. All right. So that is coming up on Monday. If you're new, like Go Blue 0052 Jason, I'm not even sure who that is. Or if you have any questions, by all means. Tyler says other objects that are N-words to the NFK. Mugu Gaipan, true story. Anything that trips him, anything he drops, remote control, etc. Yes. All right. I got in the mail something yesterday that I didn't expect, and it's kind of hilarious. I just changed companies that does the payroll for the Eric Zane Show podcast. Believe it or not, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I actually have payroll. Like every 2 weeks, I get a paycheck, It says pay to the order of, it's electronic, but it says it. And then it shows me how much federal tax, how much state tax, FICA, Social Security, all that shit comes out of the money that I earn. And the company that just started doing that is a well-known company known as ADP. That's what they do. And I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, this is much more streamlined. And they go, okay, and be on the lookout for, they told me they were mailing me something. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Because by law, you have to have this displayed in your place of business. I'm like, huh? You've seen these. This is one of these laminated things. Youth Employment Standards Act, minimum wage and overtime. Michigan law prohibits discrimination. Michigan safety and health protection on the job. This workplace covered by the Michigan Right to Know law. And like, I guess if you don't display this prominently, you get in trouble or some shit. I have no idea. And then they sent me another one. Federal labor laws. It talks about the federal minimum wage. By the way, I threw that away, but excuse me, O'Neill. On this fucking thing, state of Michigan minimum hourly wage is $10.10 starting. Okay, coming up January 1st, it's going up from $10.10 to $10.33. And then next year, January 1, $10.56. So in another decade, the $12 an hour that iHeart is paying me will be less than minimum wage. And then it says on this one, federal labor laws, federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. That's way back since July of 2009. Now, wait a minute. I'm confused. Do any of you know why this is? So federal minimum wage is $7.25, but the state minimum wage is $10.56. How? I mean, what is it? Which one do you, well, hey, I'll take the lower one, please. I mean, who's going to do that? Does that mean if you're a federal employee, the minimum wage is $7.25? And it's ridiculous that the minimum wage is $10.56. That's very low for the state. But the fact that the federal minimum wage is $7.25, workplace discrimination is illegal. It just talks about that. This is pure bureaucracy. The fact that, obviously, it doesn't matter to me. I have one employee, me. I don't want to read this shit. Fuck it. I will autograph these and send them away to you to the highest bidder. Bidding opens at 1 cent. Matt says, can you sue yourself for sexual harassment? So if I give myself a hand job, I can sue me. Logan says you better hang that up before you file a complaint against yourself. Becky says, I think the federal minimum wage is set so that a state minimum wage cannot go lower than $7.25. People say that the minimum wage should be $15. I don't think that is that much of that. It shouldn't be a big deal. I know Rick gets all butthurt about it. And, he says, I can't afford $15 an hour. I said, well, you better figure out a way, I think it's great. It should be a minimum of $15 an hour, in my opinion. Logan talks about this same document. He says that's small compared to Maine's. The one I have to update every year is nearly 6 feet tall and just as wide. God damn. All right. Thank you to those who are enjoying the show on Facebook and YouTube. But it's time to let you go. I appreciate you so much. You can get the rest of the show live on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Eric Zane Live. Twitch.tv/Eric Zane Live. Do that, and you can watch the rest of the show as it happens. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.